pause when you pause now. Good luck. I'll see you later.
All right. Thank you. Hi, if you've just joined, I'm just going to wait another 20-30 seconds just to let people ensure that they can hear me and that you're connecting. You might have been on my last webinar just now, which finished about 5 minutes ago. So I've just grabbed a cup of tea before we start again. So welcome to this session if you've just joined. And I look forward very much to talking to you about business languages. Okay, so I'm going to get going. For those of you who haven't met me, or if you weren't in my previous session on GCSE, I am a teacher and director of languages. Oh, nice if you've just seen me on the last one. So this is a very different focus, a different slant. So a little bit of background about me before we go into this. I'm a director of languages for a group of schools in the Kirklees, Huddersfield area. And on Fridays, I work nationally as a consultant. Now, my background before coming into teaching, and I'm sure some of you are or were in the same situation, is that you worked in industry before coming into teaching. It's something I am particularly passionate about because I worked in international sales and marketing. I travelled a lot, and I also really took note of how my colleagues who weren't linguists, who hadn't really got on with languages in school, how they needed to apply languages in their jobs. So I worked in textiles. I often worked with designers, and we worked on clothing and fashion. I worked in furniture fabrics. I worked for Total Oil, so in the oil and lubricants industry, and also in toiletries and cosmetics. And again, it was, you know, really interesting to see how those people were struggling, but how they really needed quite a narrow amount of vocabulary to be able to cope with the context they were put in. So if you were part of the group of schools nationally that used to run the MVQ, that's something we still run, and that's something that is used for year 9s, year 10s who may not be suited to GCSE, as it's an assessment route only. However, in addition to that, I always felt, and I'm going back 4, 5, 6 years ago, I always felt that there was a need for a business language qualification that was a little bit more robust, a bit more rigorous, and that would suit your post-16 learners in terms of raising their employability and opening their eyes and minds to what kind of jobs might be available where you were going to be using languages. And so I designed a level 2 qualification, which has now been up and running for the last 4 or 5 years. It's particularly popular with private schools, and what they've done is they've added it as an enrichment qualification, but also as a qualification to replace what would once have been the AS. So if you're in a sixth form where you're now down to 3 A levels instead of the 3 A levels in 1 and 1 AS, this might be something you want to look at. But because there have been some changes over the past 6 to 12 months, I want to talk to you about the future and where this qualification may go, rather than, you know, where we've been up to now. So it's designed for post-16. I think what works really well, it's practical and meaningful, and it really does appeal to students, undergraduates, because we work with universities, and we've also worked with professionals who are actually based in the workplace. I know for a fact, because my 2 own daughters are perfect examples of this, not all learners want to do A-level. Not all learners want to study film and literature. And I think the problem with A-level is it is highly academic, and it doesn't always demonstrate to students how actually languages, how useful and how they can be, and how they can be applied to the workplace. And my 2 daughters are now doing a degree in business or international business, and they're both doing an applied language. One is doing Spanish, one is doing French. Neither of them took A-level. One of them tried it and hated it. Neither of them enjoyed learning languages at GCSE. However, because they're now applying the language to the real world and they can see the benefit of it for career reasons, finance reasons, economic reasons, etc., they're far more motivated. And this is where I want this qualification to continue to appeal to those students who don't necessarily want to do A-level. Having said that, some students who do want to do A-level, and there are a good number of them out there, like I was, might want to do this in addition. So let's have a look. It's level 2 post GCSE. The whole idea behind it is to really expose students to different business scenarios, to understand how languages would be applied in different contexts, but also to train them up on work-related skills, to understand, you know, the different types of tasks and responsibilities you may have in the workplace, but also to start to become aware of where language skills are needed. So looking at job applications, looking at the type of jobs that they could apply, looking at actual adverts and looking at, you know, why the language may actually enhance their chance of getting a job over somebody else. So the level 2 business language qualification is designed, if you like, around 6 areas: companies and organizations, business and communication, rules and regulations, international travel, and sales and marketing, as well as customer service, because we felt that these were the kind of overriding contexts that students would find themselves in, where they may, if they were in the workplace, need to apply their knowledge. So let's just have a look in a bit more depth. So companies and organizations. In the last couple of months, what we've been doing is putting some of this content online. So at the moment, we have resources available for teachers to teach this in schools. And it does sit online at the moment. That's how teachers access the resources. But what we're looking to do is to build more online independent learning, because as we know, students are used to working online. So we are building in, oh, sorry about this. I don't know if you can hear this. I'm just going to have to remove my headset. But students hear a lot of listening, and we do focus on grammar and vocabulary. So there is still a level of vocabulary and grammar there it makes the qualification quite rigorous. So then students learn how to introduce themselves. So they look at the type of jobs that people do. They look at the type of companies and how people use different languages, but also what do they do in their job. So we've taken 12 generic jobs: production manager, sales manager, marketing manager, engineer, etc. And we've looked at how they would introduce themselves, let's say if they were at a conference. Now, this activity would be to teach students, if they were to go to a conference or to go to an interview, how would they introduce themselves in terms of their educational background, where they're from, what their skills and their strengths are, etc. So this is the type of thing now that we're currently working on to help train students up, because this is where we see this qualification going. Blended learning, partly taught in the classroom, but also online. Even if we get a vaccine and everything goes back to normal from September, we think that this extra drilling and practice that students can access online will really help them further develop their skills. If you were on my previous webinar, you'll notice some of these quizzes and drill activities that I've been using for GCSE. But again, what we want to do is to flood the learners over and over again with the type of sentences or phrases or structures that they would need in different contexts. And then obviously what we would do is get learners to reflect back on what they've covered online. So we're looking at different modular activities, including teaching resources and also some quizzes, and then they can look back at what they've learnt. This is an example, for example, of in German, because we have this in French, German and Spanish, where again, learners look at how people in different jobs would introduce themselves, whether they were on the phone or at a conference, etc. So you can see the kind of resources and the kind of context. Sorry, I meant to mute the sound on this one as well. So this is taken from module 2. This is where learners are looking at how people are now interviewed online. Now, this was happening pre-lockdown, pre-COVID. I know, for example, my niece went to work for Nike in Amsterdam, and how was she interviewed? I'm going back 2 or 3 years now. It was done online. She literally had to press a recording button and she was videoed. It was automatic. There was nobody doing it. It was all computer controlled, and she saw a number of questions and she had about 10-20 seconds to think about how to answer those questions, and then she answered it. But we know with Teams, with Zoom, this software, this online communication is used now in a lot of businesses, if not most businesses. And so this will really fit in well in training students how to deal with online communication, but also potentially, if they apply for a job, how they may be interviewed online. Students are expected for module 5 to do sales presentations. So what we've done is we've videoed certain people doing presentations of different types of products or services. So if you're already teaching this, you'll be aware that students listen to the presenter. They do lots of activities in terms of listening and with the transcript, but they also judge the person's actual skills in terms of presentation. So they'll be looking at the clarity of the message, the body language, the eye contact, etc. And again, it's all about training students on life skills, work-related skills, not just the language itself. So there's a lot of good practice coming out here in terms of life skills and work skills, career skills, which is why I think this fits really well as a enrichment qualification. This would be listening to somebody over the phone. So as we know, we use different phrases, a different way of communicating when it's not face-to-face and you can't actually see the person, so it's just done by audio. And again, students study how this is done. So this would be example of somebody booking a ski holiday with a travel company, and the students will be listening to what kind of customer requests are being given over the phone. What does the client want? What any particular requests. So again, they're being trained on what to expect if they were working, for example, for a travel company. And then your more social context. So this is listening to people out in the streets, asking, seeking information, and then listening and understanding. So this was filmed in Bordeaux, and this is somebody actually asking for directions and where places are. So I know that that also features in GCSE. So you can see lots of different contexts on how we train students up. We also train them up about, well, what's a conference? What's an exhibition? I've often asked kids, what is it? And they'll say, well, don't you go to these big places like Birmingham to go to these events? But they don't really know what conferences and exhibitions are about. So sometimes we play YouTube clips to let them see video clips, promotional video clips about what conferences and exhibitions are like. I've used textile ones because I used to go to them in Paris, for example. And then again, they listen to how a salesperson works with a potential customer, what kind of information is asked in terms of delivery information and quantities and prices and deals. Again, they're watching, you know, sort of simulations about what to expect if they were in that scenario. And then people explaining a little bit more depth about jobs. So these were filmed in Germany. You've got somebody who runs a jeweler's shop, somebody there who is a pharmacist, and each of them explain not just what they do and how they deal with customers, but how they deal with foreign tourists, how languages are important for their particular jobs. And I think what we're trying to do is say to kids, you know, no matter what job you go into in this day and age, you can't look into a crystal ball and say you'll never need to use a foreign language. It's always going to be there as a useful skill. Marketing, because I worked in sales and marketing, it's something that I really enjoy teaching kids about, the 6 P's of marketing: product, price, promotion, place, etc. So we get students to understand how companies sell and promote their products or services. What is a unique selling point? How are you going to catch a customer's attention when you've got other competition? So again, we're training students up on, you know, basic marketing and selling skills. And again, it puts the language into context, which is what I think makes it more interesting to students. That's one of my previous students, and what she's doing there. He's doing there, sorry, he's actually doing his presentation, and he's created a pie chart. And what we've done at the time, we said, okay, introduce yourself, say what your job is, talk about how long you've been in the company, what is the product that you are wishing to sell, and tell us, you know, what are the unique or advantages of buying this product. What's nice about this is students can go away and pick anything. It's complete carte blanche. We say, pick something you're interested in, or go and research a company and present in the way that you know the product or service that is really of interest to you. We have had all sorts. We've had new games consoles. We've had some very cheeky underwear from the student who absolutely loved. I think it was Victoria's Secret. So we've had all sorts of manner of things, but it allows for that creativity to come through. A typical writing task is, for example, this example here, where they are doing a formal letter of application. So when they do the end of module test, because this up to now has been part exam, part end of module, I'll talk about the qualification where it's heading in a minute, is that they're given a specific brief. So you need to write a letter of application. You assume the role of the following candidate. You are applying to the design department. This is the address. So what they have to do is show that they know how to set a letter out. This is the name of the candidate. This is what you're studying. This is what you're looking for. These are your strengths, your previous experience, why you want to get this experience, why you're applying for this job, your availability, and anything that you have attached. So all this is really good knowledge and also skills in terms of not only how to create this knowledge, show your knowledge, but how you set it out, how you format it, how it's done in terms of a CV and a letter. Because in France and Spain and Germany, they're all quite different. So it's really worth, you know, teaching kids these skills. Listening tasks. If you were on my GCSE presentation earlier, we are pushing the listening skills more, and this is what typically would happen in the exam. So it's not a dialogue. The exam is based on the learners listening to a message that has been delivered. The idea is that they note down the key points, and then they have to feed that back, and they have to be recorded feeding it back. So for example, one of the recent ones was an advert for an app, a language learning app. And it was, you know, what are the key features? What is the product? What are the key features? What are the key selling points? What benefits of using this product? When will it be available? And what is the price? So this is how, this is the kind of information. Other examples have been where somebody is delayed and has left a phone message, a voicemail to say, this is so-and-so on the phone, I have a meeting tomorrow, I want to arrive for 10 o'clock, please use the office on the second floor on the left. So they have to note this down, and then they have to feed it back. So of course it's like transposition. What they're doing is they can't assume the person who's left the message. So if it was a gentleman, then they would be saying il a dit que, he said that. So they have to transpose and use a different subject pronoun, for example. So it's really good practice. So what I'm doing now, I have been working with the Institute of Linguists. I granted them the right to use this specification, if you like, and badge this qualification, but at the moment they have confirmed that they're not going to be able to support us in partnership with this qualification. So now we are in discussion with another awarding body, and I can give you an update on that in a few weeks. for the level 2, but I'm going to explain where we want to go with the level 2, but also I want to talk to you about the level 3. Again, we've been trying to push for a level 3 for a couple of years now because we believe it can attract UCAS points. We've had some very interesting discussions with UCAS. We have surveyed our current centres, schools that are teaching the level 2, to see if a level 3 would be of interest. We foresee this not to be the same size as an A level, but delivered more like the EPQ and to be done more independently. So this is something that I am hoping to set up and get ready for spring of 2022, and I'll talk more about it as we go through. So I can see this being based on independent research, blended learning, where some of the grammar and some of the practice activities are taught face-to-face in lessons, but that students are going to do a lot more of this online and independently, that it would be project-based and that there would be choice flexibility on how they go about this. So if you are delivering this in EPQ, the EPQ, you might have an idea how students have to go away and work independently. This will be available just like level 2 in French, German and Spanish. That's the initial languages that we will set it up in. So my thinking is for a level 2 is that they will be given briefs, and I've taken some of these ideas from my elder daughter, who's now 22. She actually did a year on an international business communication degree in Nijmegen in the Netherlands. And I was fascinated by some of the activities that she was asked to do. And I can see that this will be created in a similar way, in that they will assume the role of somebody working, for example, in a company. They will be given a task brief, such as you are the marketing manager of a company that needs to set up a business trip to somewhere in France. It is your job to work out an itinerary, to find a suitable hotel, to make inquiries about using office space, to book X and Y. You need to look at how you're going to get there. You need to work out your budget, etc., etc. So these, if you like, are the real sort of tasks that people are going to need if they go into the workplace. So it's good from a financial point of view, using spreadsheets, working out the budget. This is what my daughter Jessica did. She had to put everything into French, and she found the whole thing fascinating. So I can see it will be project-based, and you can see the kind of activities. So it could be, for example, that they're told online what they need to do, that they go away, do all the research, that they produce, for example, a marketing presentation, a PowerPoint, that they have to email companies, hotels in the target language, asking information, what price would this be? And then they would collate that evidence of sending those emails and their receipts, etc. And then they would come into the class and basically imagine that their teacher is like their boss and that they're just checking progress. So I want it to be really, real, authentic as possible based tasks. That's how I see it working. What we want then is to be able to assess their ability to use language in a spontaneous way, both face-to-face and virtual, delivering presentations with a good high level of language, being able to ask people questions, being able to answer spontaneously questions. Also, we may build a bit of interpreting practice in terms of listening. It could be listening to various dialogues, dealing with a variety of messages. In terms of reading skills, researching information, summarising information. I know doing summaries is part of the A-level now. Understanding a project brief in the target language, etc., etc. And then in terms of writing, creating a report, and also doing some translation work. I do think at level 3 also that students should have some sort of project where they can go and research, example, a company or a region or an industry. So we want to link it into things that are of interest to them. So there again, that's another project brief. You've been asked by your manager, set up a visit to a factory in Lyon for a group for your design team. It's got to be 5 days, find accommodation, best way to travel, suitable hotel for hosting a conference, what can you do in that area in terms of cultural visits? I know from when I used to do a lot of excessive travel in sales and marketing, whether I was visiting customers or whether I was at an exhibition, when you are in these exhibition centres and conferences and it's all air conditioned and you're in this, you know, brightly lit building from 8 in the morning till 6 in the evening, sometimes you just have to get out in the evening and do something completely different. And if you're there for the weekend, also maybe to build a bit of cultural stuff in as well. So this is what typically would happen in the workplace. Now, we are in discussion with a number of companies about how languages are used. There is one company, they're just at the moment updating the website, but they're, for example, a digital marketing company, a social media company that work with all these companies. So we want to consult with various companies to say, look, how are you applying languages and how do your customers need information in foreign languages for their customers? So we're taking a lot of the lead and advice from existing companies and using some of their task-based responsibilities. We want to build this into the level 3. So I hope all this is making sense. So where are we hoping to go from this? So I just want to spend 5-10 minutes discussing this now and to see maybe some of the questions in the chat. So at the moment, the level 2 has been basically offered through the Institute of Linguists, and it is part exam, part end of module assessment using our online resources, but it's all delivered in the classroom. Now, because we are not certain where they're going with the qualification, what we're going to do now is partner another awarding body. The idea is this: we don't think a level 2 needs to be Ofqual compliant because a level 2 does not count to progress points, progress 8, and it doesn't count to you towards UCAS points because it is level 2. When we have spoken with the schools that are currently delivering it, they've actually said to us, because it's delivered for enrichment, it doesn't really matter if it's not Ofqual compliant. That gives us flexibility. So the awarding body that we're talking with, the idea is that we want to make this flexible, that it can be started and finished at any point, and that the actual assessments will be online, mostly delivered online, and can be taken at any time. That's the first thing to mention. So we want to make it more flexible. We want to make it a cheaper qualification. We also want to make it more attractive to a wider number of learners. So for example, when learners go on to sixth form, they choose at A levels, but then they can pick this up as an additional qualification in year 12. And it could also be used to bridge that gap in language learning should they wish to do language learning as an applied subject, applied module, alongside their main degree. Then once they've done the level 2, the idea is then that they do a level 3 if they wish to continue up to the next level. So we do think level 2, certainly the course itself, even if they don't want to get a certificate of completion and finish there, they should still do it as a kind of a way into business languages. If you have already taught anything like this, you will know that this is very different to GCSE in terms of the context and the vocabulary. Yes, the grammar is the same, but not the context, not the vocabulary. So if learners then want to carry on up to level 3, we see this again as having an element of flexibility. However, it would need to be Ofqual compliant, I think, because we want it to attract UCAS points. What we want to do is to consult with the various schools, universities, colleges interested in delivering this, because what we want to know is how would this work for you? When I've had discussions with UCAS, it can be as big or small as we wish to make it. If you were to look at students applying to colleges, to universities, they can search different qualifications that attract different points on the UCAS site. And I'll give you an example. Durham University, quite a significant number of their candidates that apply to Durham have done a critical writing qualification. I think it's in critical writing, and it's worth something like 12 points. So it's very small and it's not onerous. It might not even be Ofqual compliant. This is what I need to look at. So we want to make it big enough for learners to get enough points, but small enough for it to be delivered and fit in alongside 3 A levels. So in terms of your question, how many learning hours, we want to ask you what would work. We do think a lot of it will be done independently by the student. I could foresee this maybe 1 hour a week or 1 hour a fortnight. And I'm just reading now some of the questions. Could this be delivered in international schools? Absolutely, no problem. You could start it now, to be honest. But I think what many of you might wish to do is set this up in September when we've got all the online independent learning activities set up, because then your students have got a lot more chance to practice it, and there's less need to be delivering it for more than, say, an hour in a week in your school. Yes, all the resources are already there for the teaching in Spanish, French and German for level 2. The only thing that we are needing to do is we need to build the independent online quizzes that will go alongside, so that should students be learning remotely for whatever reason, they can do that. So we need, that's something we'll have in place by September. In terms of level 3, I foresee that being ready then in the spring of 2022. Now, this is something I really need to stress. This is very important. We will not get a level 3 up and running unless there is sufficient interest. We need at least 100+ candidates for this to be recognised as a business opportunity, for example, for an awarding body. And the one that we're talking with at the moment have expressed that, just like any other awarding body. How are we going to do this? Well, we think what we need to do is get as many teachers delivering this or offering it in sixth form from September. Then if we've got sufficient numbers at level 2, we can use that as evidence of students who might then go to level 3. What I will do is I'm going to ask you to fill a form in at the end of this, just to tell me what your thoughts and feelings are about this, and you can access and look at already at some of the resources that we're using. So I hope this is making sense. We are looking at potential funding for level 2, etc. But what we want to do is to reduce the cost per student of actually taking this exam. It's with the Institute of Linguists at the moment, it's £100 per student, but that's because it's Ofqual compliant and it involves an exam as well as end of module assessments. Because we are here, we are the assessment centre, and we have been examining it up until recently. We can put this online and make this cheaper and more accessible and more flexible. So we are looking at reducing this and making it cheaper. As I say, it won't be Ofqual compliant, but it will be quality assured by the awarding body and that we're going to be working with, and they will co-badge the certificate. So you've got to imagine that it will be a certificate of completion. So I hope this is making sense. I mean, I have tried to champion business languages for 6-7 years now. I spoke to the Minister, Nick Gibb, last October. I was speaking at the Inside Government conference, and as soon as I mentioned a rigorous level 3, his ears pricked up. He said, come and talk to me. I'd like to look at this further. Since that meeting, the British Academy, Neil Kenny has been in contact. He's aware of what we're trying to do, and various other consultants and organisations are very keen to look at how we proceed with this. In terms of a level 1, Catherine, because we are aiming this at post 16, it is an assumption that they have some basic grammar. However, in the survey that I'm putting out, we are asking teachers, would you want to offer this as a brand new language? Please don't think this is an ideal alternative to GCSE. The government will not look at anything other than a GCSE in languages in terms of Progress 8 at the moment. However, those schools that were delivering MVQ, which is a much more basic qualification where they can use the information, they can have the notes in front of them. That is ideal for your weaker learners. So the MVQ route, and we have a different set of resources available for that, is great for your year 9s and potentially 10s. The school I left, Redillion, actually deliver level 1 MVQ in year 9 alongside the normal curriculum, because the chief exec there is really passionate about languages being a fantastic lifelong or rather career skill. So he is prepared to put all the year 9s through level 1. And so, but that is a completely different, if you like, pathway. And it's the same awarding body that we use for that one. And I will give you more information, obviously, as a follow-up. So just to summarize, we are looking at changing the awarding body and the way that we run the level 2 so that it is more flexible, that it is cheaper, and that it can be delivered in a blended learning way. That's the level 2 business language qualification for post-16. We are then looking at bringing in a level 3. Yes, it can be delivered to students who don't want to do A-level, or it can be delivered alongside. Many students do A-level. Remember, we are working with universities on this as well. They like to offer it as an additional language qualification to students. It seems particularly popular with students who are doing, for example, business studies, international business studies, as well as foreign students who might be doing a placement over here, an Erasmus placement, for example, for a year. We have language tutors who are now delivering this because they're doing a lot of language tuition online. So they use the qualification and resources to deliver to some private students who might be post-16 or people in the workplace. We've worked with lecturers who actually go out to companies. So Telefonica, what was the Spanish mobile company, we've had English people working for that Spanish company do this qualification. So you can see there's lots of possibilities. My absolute request, because I feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall with this sometimes, is if you can get students onto the level 2 in September, i.e. the updated current resources plus the blended, that will give us a very strong argument for getting the level 3 through. And I'm just reading now quite a long message from Pilar. We've been designing syllabus for business English, including real mocks. I thought, yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, I've had interest from Cuba and Bermuda and quite a lot of international schools abroad. I will certainly set up some sort of collaborative group, because I would like people to stay in contact with me about this. So what I propose to do is I am going to now drop in the chat box a link. That link will take you to a Google form where you can give me some feedback on what you've heard me talk about today. So I will be asking you about what language you think this would work for, what age group, would your school run it as a level 2 enrichment if it was a more flexible qualification? How many students of yours then might go up and do it alongside A-level? I was speaking to a fantastic school and a colleague of mine who might actually be on this chat from the Lake District, who said some students only do 2 A-levels, and what this might do is give them a UCAS attracting qualification alongside the 2 A-levels. So it's very flexible, and any help that you guys can give us to get this up and running will be fantastic, because without you, we're not going to get the numbers and we're not going to get that level 3 up. So you couldn't see the link. Did it not show up? The link is there. I put it, it's at 136. It says it's the docs, the google.com link. I don't know if you, can you just tell me if it's showing now? Level 2 does never, oh, that's interesting. It's not showing. Right, what I'm going to do, I just don't know why that isn't coming up. Let me just try it again. Let's just see if I can get it into the chat box again. Nope. Let me just see if there's another way I can do this. I'm just going to go back to the chat box and see if I can open it again. Let's see if I can do it. I think the best thing to do, because I don't know why you can't see the link, I've put it 3 or 4 times now. If you have a phone, you can hover over. What I'm going to do is do it this way. If you have a phone, you can hover over that QR code and it would take you straight to the actual form. If not, the other option is that you email me. You can see my email there and just send it to me, and the QR code works fine. You don't need a QR reader. You just literally hover your camera over that code and it will take you straight to it. I'm glad some of you are managing, but if you're not, ideally what I'd like you to do is email me, and then I don't know why my message is not coming up in the chat box. I've sent it now 3 or 4 times. I'm not sure why it isn't coming through, but please email me. I will then send you the link, and if you could fill that in, I would really like to do this as a collaborative project, because I want it to work for people in different settings. And I think, because you need to choose all panelists and attendees. Right, okay, let's see if let's try this. See if I can get this working. Any luck? Great, brilliant. Okay, we will send you out a link to access some of the resources. You can go into module 1, you can trial and test some of the resources. In terms of the online resources, they're being developed, so that I wouldn't be able to give you access to those just yet, but please stay in contact and we will stay in contact with you. And we're really excited about the potential for this moving forward. Okay, so I'm glad everybody's got the link. If you have got any questions, please drop it in. And if you want to speak to any of the schools that are running it, we get such fantastic feedback. What we find often is a 6th form will start one language and find it really works well, and then they'll bring in a 2nd or a 3rd language. There's a school in Nottingham, and the teacher there has got so into this, she teaches German, that they actually, when they get onto the health and safety module, they bring in high-vis jackets and safety helmets in, so the students actually put some of this security or protective gear on to act out some of the scenarios. She's really got into it, which is absolutely fantastic. Some schools have scrapped A-level and deliver this across the whole trust, which is absolutely brilliant. I could foresee also, I run funded work experience trips to Morzine in the French Alps and also to Alicante, and we are hoping to sort of run more of those trips after COVID has disappeared, and to tie this qualification and all this stuff into the trips that we do. Plus, maybe to even offer some real projects or work placements to some of the students. Laura's asking when I would like the forms back. There's absolutely no rush, Laura. We are going to be producing the updated level 2 flexible qualification for the beginning of the new year. So we don't really need anything yet. All I would say is I will send you plenty of information. The other thing I do is I produce student and parents' evening information and flyers and presentations so that you can actually show this to parents. So if you have an open evening, probably they're not really running, but if you do have any open evenings, or if you're doing online, please let me know. Perhaps you could put that on the form, because I can give you all the promotional presentations and student flyers that we tend to hand out. If you want to speak to any schools that are running it, please let me know. I will ask their permission for you to contact them. I think they would be delighted to share the positive things that they're doing with their students. There's one gentleman called Stuart, I can't remember, I think he's in Warwickshire, and he said to me, you know what, this is amazing. Our students are learning far more from this than what they're doing on A-level. And, you know, at the end of the day, I worked abroad, I worked in international sales. My 2 girls are doing that now. They didn't need A-level to do that. And I'm not dissing A-level, I'm not saying get rid of it. It just doesn't suit everybody. So there we go. Hope that's been useful. Thank you so much for your time. And please email me or at least fill in the form if you can. Many thanks.